So probably the biggest problem that startup phase sort of one-person law firms have, of course, is that they've got no time and no money. So what would I do if I was in that situation and I needed to amp up my law firm marketing efforts? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. My name is Chris Hargraves. I'm from Known, Liked and Trusted, where we provide digital marketing services for lawyers and law firms, as you might expect, given the subject matter of this particular episode. We are going to talk about what can we do that is both time efficient and cost efficient in the early days, because often if you've gone out on your own or you've just started your new law firm, you don't necessarily have the human resources in the sense of a team of people to support you, and you don't necessarily have the large budget, or at least if you have some capital, you want to be a little bit cautious and a little bit respectful of how you invest that capital. And so you may not be running a $15,000 a month ad campaign necessarily. So you might not have the same sort of flexibility as you will have in a few years once you're more established. So what can you be doing in those very early days in terms of your law firm's marketing efforts to try and be establishing more contacts and bedding down your presence in the marketplace? I think the first thing that a lot of people simply refuse to do, even though they have all heard it, is to make it very, very, very clear who your client is. Who is it that you are trying to hunt down? And this is, okay, it's not the greatest analogy, but who is the person you're looking for that you want to come into your office and give you money to do their legal work for them? Now, I know that for a lot of startups, you will probably do almost anything. If it is vaguely within your field of expertise, you will often be prepared to do that work. Now, some people have a sharper delineation there. If you only have experience in, say, family law or criminal law, you're probably not going to help someone set up a master franchise or register a patent or something like that. But by and large, we will, of course, do the work if at all possible it comes in through our door. But that doesn't need to affect or control your marketing efforts. So I think before you do anything else, and I mean literally before you start writing the copy for your website, you need to know who your client is and what kinds of things they care about and where they hang out. Because without answering those questions, you're going to have a heck of a time in the digital marketing space, because you won't be able to find your people effectively, and you won't be able to produce material or content or website stuff that is actually appealing to those people, because you don't know who they are. And what we tend to do is make everything we then produce so generic that it's really not good enough to stand out so far as the wide range of other people who are competing for the business that you are trying to get. Okay, so define your people. And I have a short course. It is free. I will drop a link in the description if you want to do it. That will help you define your people. The next thing you need to do is ensure that those people are in mind in everything you do. So the first thing most people are going to be doing is getting a website done up. Okay, that's great. The problem is if your website is super generic, like I said before, it's not really going to be compelling enough to those people that it's going to nudge them across any sort of line or in any sort of direction towards hiring you as their lawyer. Okay. Yes, having a website and existing on the internet at least ticks off the fact that you are a legitimate business-ish, although anyone can have a website and look legitimate-ish. But having a presence is worthwhile and necessary. But if you're going to bother having a presence, why not write the things on that website specifically targeted to the things that you know these people care about? So if you are, say, in debt collection or commercial litigation, and that's sort of your niche, and you are targeting, say, this sort of dead zone of commercial litigation that big firms have trouble playing in, you know, that $50,000 to $150,000 dispute area, because you know you can run it cheaper and effectively with your expertise and your limited overheads compared to, say, the big firms where they're going to run up huge costs and make that kind of thing unpalatable to the majority of businesses. You're playing in that space. You need to speak to those concerns. If you're not speaking to those concerns for those people to distinguish how you are capable of delivering a service in a way that they are not actually getting from someone else, then you're not doing the job properly and your website's not going to be as effective. Now, I don't mean you need to go on the warpath and say, all the other law firms suck and I'm the best at this. No, that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is if you understand the pain point associated with the work you want to get people to give you, and you can describe the kinds of issues that they are having better than they potentially can and the concerns that they have, and offer them a solution to those problems at the same time on the face of your website without them having to dig 15 clicks in, then that is a better approach to take than having something that is just, we are lawyers who care about you and your business. Thumbs up. No, that's what everyone says. That doesn't help you. Now, that kind of approach becomes more difficult, of course, as you enter a more multidisciplinary practice. If you are a general practitioner and you do genuinely have expertise in multiple different areas, then that's going to be more challenging. But in some way, as best you can, try and have a defined person for whom you are producing your website content. Now, everything I just said about website content also flows through into all sorts of other content. Now, if you're in startup mode and you're keeping your own books and you're opening your own files and you're kicking your own photocopier and you're running out of your home office while raising children and trying to keep coffee coming regularly into your office, and you're doing all of these things by yourself, you don't necessarily have hours and hours and hours to research and produce an article, and you may not necessarily have the budget to hire someone to do that for you. So what is the answer to that going to be? It's going to be to have a content program or a content strategy that involves more use of two things. You can use one or the other or both, whichever takes your fancy of those options. And they are curated content. That is, in your normal reading process, you find things that are useful to that defined client that you understand, answering the questions and issues that they have, and you simply share that. You are giving them the gift of saving them time of wading through the news feed like you had to get to that information. You offer a comment or an observation, or you ask a question, and that is a good curation strategy. It takes the things you already do in terms of reading things that are interesting, and where you find something that is interesting, you simply share it with the people who you know will care about it because you understand your own clients very well. So that is one way of a time-saving process. You may or may not choose to share other firms' topics. I know most lawyers will not share other firms' topics. That is your personal choice, but there is ample material out there to share with your audience, not having to be produced by you, and your commitment needs to be only reading what you're already reading and then taking that extra 30 seconds to share it and offer a comment or a question of your own. That is a curation strategy. Next, we have a micro-content strategy. This is where, knowing your audience as you do, and it's principally a social media strategy, so on the social media platforms where your audience or your people or your desired clients hang out, whether that's LinkedIn or Reddit or Instagram or TikTok, dare I say it, or Facebook, or in a Facebook group of a particular kind where you're allowed to do this kind of thing, whatever the case may be, wherever it is that the people you are trying to have conversations with and develop relationships with actually hang out, not just the place that you feel happiest in, but the place where they are hanging out, you post something short. This can be once a day, once every couple of days. It is not hard for you to do this once a day, I don't think, if you've applied yourself to it. And we'll come to a methodology you can use to do that in a sec. But basically this is a system whereby you post a short, simple to produce piece of content. Perhaps it is an image you found, perhaps it is a joke. Jokes can be useful. I've spoken about that in the past. I won't do it again here. Perhaps it is a thought or a question or a poll, something that is easy for you to produce, that is on topic, that demonstrates you know the issues your people are facing, and that you can from time to time offer some insight into those issues. But principally, what we're doing in this startup phase is we're finding opportunities to develop relationships. So you don't need to be all about providing constant information and answers. I think we do get a little obsessed with the being informative all the time, and as a result we put out a lot of content but we don't engage in a lot of conversations. So don't be afraid of just posting content that is not world-breakingly wise and insightful and summarized in 4 words, and it's just like, oh my goodness, you are the most amazing thinker the world has ever seen. If you come up with that, thumbs up from me. But if you don't, then something that is on topic and relevant to your people and can encourage conversation. Often a question, often maybe something a little controversial. You can dovetail that in with curation. If someone else writes something controversial, post it with a question. Hey, what do you think about this? It's a hot topic. That is a good conversation starter, because on the internet, and I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but on the internet, people tend to like expressing their opinions about controversial topics. So that can be a conversation starter. You don't have to even hold an opinion, nor necessarily express your own. Just invite others, have conversations with them, get to know the people you are trying to get to know, and have those opportunities taken up as part of your marketing efforts. Now, at this point, we hit the normal problem of, but Chris, how do I even come up with ideas? Okay, I sit down at the computer, I've had 42 ideas over the last 24 hours, and then I sit down and I go to type something, and you know what? I cannot think of a single idea, and then I waste time, 30 or 40 minutes doing what should have been a 2.5-minute task. Okay, there are 2 solutions to this. 1, watch my previous episode on having a pen and paper handy wherever you go and jot down your ideas when you have them. And 2, take the free course that I mentioned earlier about defining your clients, because it will take you through a process where if you don't come out with 100 or more content ideas, then you're not trying hard enough through the process. Okay, it is not overcomplicated, but it is more complicated than I care to deal with in this particular video in terms of working through that process. So that is essentially what I would be doing if I was in startup mode, because it honors my time. It doesn't have me committed to hours and hours and hours and hours of complex stuff while I'm otherwise trying to just scramble and do all the other things, okay? And it makes it fairly easy for me to execute on a regular daily basis. That's my digital strategy. Digital is not the be-all and end-all of marketing. There is, of course, your in-person strategies. There are your face-to-face strategies, and this allows you the time and the margin to do that too, so you're not just sitting in front of a computer all day, every day. So, once you have then a well-defined and understood audience, and you have prepared your website and your various social media areas to be comforting and speak to those people in language that they care about, addressing issues that they care about, to demonstrate that you are kind of the right person for them to be investigating for their particular needs, and you have an idea about where they hang out, in particular on social media, just because it's going to be a bit faster than focusing on something like SEO, and you don't have the budget for ads at the moment. So let's go with social media and micro content or curated content, or both. And then there are many, many, many available tools. Just Google it if you don't know any, or hit me up in a comment and I'll let you know. But there are many tools if you want to sit down and batch this on a Sunday, so you have 5 pieces of micro content going out through that week. Do that, or you can just do it as you think of it. Okay, we don't need to get overthinking this, because then we get stuck. Okay, we get stuck in our own heads. We're thinking, is this best? Should I post at 9:02 or 8:57? Oh, what should I do? Is this okay? Is this too long? Is this too short? No, don't do that. Don't overthink it. Just know your audience, write stuff that they care about, and position yourself so that you can start having conversations with them and developing a relationship with them. And the rest will flow over time, and you will get better at it and faster at it. And then you can start, as your budget and your time and your margin increase, you can start layering in some other things. So that's probably what I would do if I was getting started. And if you want to give it a crack, then by all means do that. Or just do something else entirely if you think you should. That's all I had to say. I'll see you next time.